Welcome to the Focus on Greatness podcast with me, Hiram Roche. This podcast, we encourage fathers, husbands, believers, and entrepreneurs to be able to walk into their God-given potential.
Hey, what's up, Greatness Tribe? How you doing? And as always, it is truly an honor to be able to be here with you and to serve you in this manner. Hey, listen, before we dive in, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go ahead and like this, go ahead and subscribe, and go ahead and share, and then comment. Let me know where you are listening to this conversation at, so I can be able to know where you are and how I'm able to serve you in these different spaces. It is just an honor to be able to do it this way. And so we're going to go ahead and dive in. We're actually going to continue our conversation that we have been having these past couple episodes. And so tonight we're going to deal with training 2. Last episode we dealt with training 1. And if you haven't listened to it, please go back and you can check it out. But tonight we're going to deal with training 2. And I believe that this one, today's episode is going to be a little bit different, I would say, because it's not going to deal with this dynamic of like our purpose or even talking about our power. I believe the reason why tonight's episode is going to be different is because it's going to tap into this context of talking about our healing. Every journey begins with a single step, but what if you knew exactly where that journey was meant to end? I wrote the book for people like you, people that have dreams, people that have goals, people that want to walk in their own business, create their own legacy, but just don't know where to start. This book is a handbook. It's a bunch of tools that gives you the steps that you'll need to be able to walk into the destiny, the dream, the life that you desire and should have for you. And start with the finish in mind. You'll discover how to redefine your purpose, build on actionable roadmap, and stay focused on the outcome that truly matters. With practical advice, real-life stories, and a faith-driven approach, Start with the Finish in Mind will equip you to set clear, purpose-filled objectives, navigate challenges with resilience, and build a legacy that you'll be proud of. Start with the Finish in Mind by Hiram Roche, your guide to purposeful living and lasting success. We started this journey where we have been walking with the children of Israel. We started in Exodus chapter 13, where we are understanding that the purpose of the wilderness experience for the children of Israel, as well as for ourselves, is so that we are able to, God is able to reveal things in us, as well as then develop those things for the plan on the place that he has taken us. The place that he was taking them was from the wilderness or from their bondage to the wilderness, but he was trying to get them to their destination, which was the promised land. In the same context for us, God is taking us from one place to another, and that next place that he is trying to take unto us is our next level. Now, sometimes we can look at next level as being a combination of things, but I really believe that he is dealing with some internal pieces within us to get us prepared for whatever he has for us in our future. And so tonight we're going to continue that, and we're going to look into Exodus chapter 15 is where we're going to go. And I believe that this conversation again is going to be dealing with really the healing more than anything else. It's going to be more than you'll see. It'll deal with some real key points. So Exodus chapter 15, we're going to start at verses 22. The storyline is from 22 all the way to 26. And I believe that this is going to help us. Now, in chapter 13, God makes this statement where he says he is taking the children of Israel out of bondage through the helping and assistance of Moses. And while he's walking with them, he says, listen, I cannot take them directly into this shortcut way into the wilderness, because if I do that, they would be afraid of what they see when it talks about the context of them seeing war with the Philistines. And if they go into that, he understood they would automatically retract. They will automatically go back to where they were before in bondage. And so we go from that context to God speaking to them and talking to them about the things that they should see. And then we see them going through this process of going in that direction. We see Pharaoh and the ones that held them captive is now chasing after them. And in the process now, we in verses chapter 14, we see how God was able to get the glory in this context of getting the children of Israel to walk on dry land, to get to the other side of the water, of this brook of water, of this bay of water. But then we also see how he uses that same water that he allowed the children of Israel to walk through. He used that same water to drown Pharaoh and his soldiers. And now in chapter 14 going into 15, the children of Israel are celebrating. It's a celebratory time. They are dancing. They've created songs. They're having a whole party. Now, after the party has ended, it starts us here in verses 22. After the party has ended, they're now taking about 3 days into the wilderness. Now, 3 days into the wilderness, it's a desert-like area, right? It's a desert area. So in 3 days in the wilderness, it's going to be hot. It's going to be draining, right? You're walking. And so all of these people are in this moment of traveling. And while they are traveling, the scripture says, and which we're about to read in verse 22, let's jump right in. It says, so Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. So they were thirsty. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of it was called Marah. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, what shall we drink? And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statue and an ordinance, and there he proved them. In verse 26, and then we're going to wrap this. We're going to go back and break this context down, because I believe God is sharing something with us that's powerful. And he said in verse 26, and said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought unto the children of the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. Now let's break this context and conversation down, okay? Because I believe that this is something that is very powerful. The first thing that we see is, again, them walking through this context of the wilderness now for 3 days. While they're walking through this in 3 days, then the scripture says they become thirsty. The first thing that they do when they become thirsty is now they see this bay of water and in a place called Marah. And when they see this body of water, the scripture then says they wanted to go drink it, but they realized that this place that they wanted to go drink at is now bitter, is a bitter water. So they cannot drink of this bitter water. The first thing that they do is then complain. Now, I love what God does, and we saw this in verses 25 and 26, but I love this context that God does, because God does not rebuke them for complaining. He doesn't rebuke them for complaining, but what he does is he utilizes this moment as a teaching lesson. And so I want us to be able to see what he's speaking unto all of us, because just like them in this moment of scenario, they came to a place where they had a certain desire, they had a certain need, right? They had a certain thing that they wanted, but in the process of them wanting this specific thing, in the process of them going through this certain thing, there are certain pieces that they end up seeing that it was a desire that they had, that they end up not being able to get satisfied by this water. And in the midst of that, God utilizes this moment not only to teach them a lesson, but to be able to show them something else. And this is the thing that I believe that God is saying to us. So let's walk this through, and then we'll go from here. In verses 25 and 26, this is what we see. It says this again. It says, and he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. Now, why is this important? I believe that this is important because, again, we see that there's a need. The need is water. The water that they need is now the thing that is bitter. They cannot drink of this. So the only way that they can get their desire is they have to get the thing healed, fixed. God then chooses something that I believe is vitally important in this storyline. God uses something that on the surface seems very random. It seems very random. The tree itself is ordinary, but the ask to take this tree to place in water to be able to fix the problem seems very, very strange. Because in this question, this is what I started to ask myself. Well, how do you fix bitter water? And then I asked myself, do you fix bitter water with a tree? God in this moment shows, I believe, a great picture for us that God will often use what doesn't make sense to heal what's been bitter for years. I'm going to say that again, that God will often use what doesn't make sense to heal what has been bitter for years. Let me bring it in a little bit more so we can be able to lean in this, and then we're going to keep walking this out. God would often use people and things that do not make sense to you to heal the areas within our hearts that are broken, that are bitter. I'm pausing intentionally. I'm pausing really intentionally because here's the thing. The process of us being able to walk in this, the process of us to be able to allow whatever and whoever God chooses to use to be able to heal the areas and the places within our hearts. This is the thing. We have to be sensitive enough to be able to know what God is using. And we have to be humbled enough and open enough to be able to accept who God is using, because these two major pieces are a part of the process for God to be able to heal us. So that means that there are areas within our hearts that we cannot heal just by ourselves. And God recognizes and understands that. And then he also recognizes and understands that some of the people and things that you use on a day-to-day basis might not be the thing that he needs to be able to get to the areas that need to actually be healed. Okay, let's continue this because I don't want to linger into that too much, because I think that that's important, but it's a part of this conversation. This part I want to be able to look at is this: if we take apart this storyline, we have a combinations of situations. We have one where we have this water body of water, this body of water that is sitting here, that is the thing that needs to be healed, right? We have a group of individuals that need for the water to be healed, and then we have God utilizing a tree, which is the object that he chooses to use to be able to go through the process for helping this to be healed. So if I look at the water and I make the water in this context my heart, I need then something, which is the tree in this context of conversation, which is whoever he chooses to use and whatever he chooses to use, that might not look like what I think it should for it to be able to heal me. Those two major pieces alone are what we see. So the water is a symbol for my heart. The tree is a symbol of the thing that he wants to be able to use. But then we also look at this part, that in the midst of this, the people are me and you. Our hearts have to be healed. This all started in the process of, again, walking through this together, right? We've been walking through this together. And as we understand, again, the process of the purpose of the wilderness is for God to be able to reveal what's in us so then he can develop develop that thing that's in us so he can get us to the place that he's trying to get us to. And in the process of him talking to me, y'all walking with me and we doing this thing together. While he's talking to me, the thing he said to me first is, Hiram, your problem is, and we talked about this, Hiram, your problem is that you have a scenario where you don't know how to be able to have emotional self-control. That means things, that means situations, that means circumstances can get you emotionally out of control. You don't have self-control in that area. This is the process that we had started. Now, as I'm digging into this, here's a layer of where this is. Some of the reasons why there is I'm not emotionally controlled in this area, I have no self-control in this area, is because there are areas within my heart that need to be healed. And so what ends up happening is that when something happens, when something is going on, we talked about this context of last week or last episode where we talked about this thought process of what we see and what we see physically can affect us emotionally. And so in this thing, when I'm seeing things physically, I'm seeing things mentally, and it's affecting me in this state, it overwhelms me emotionally. But the base of where this is some of the base of where this is that there's areas within me that have not been healed. So when a situation happens, it affects me emotionally because that space within my heart has not been healed. When someone acts against me a certain way, it reminds me of a space that where I am, and my emotional state now stands up and it becomes angry. It becomes frustrating. And there are things and layers and places that God is saying within us that need to be healed, because there are not only bitter places, but there's wounded places. And these two spaces that he is saying is, listen, this is how the process of your healing looks like. So here's where he is doing to be able to walk us through this. There is training that is happening in this moment. Remember, we're on training number 2. So here is where the training is. The first portion of this training is desire reveals the wound. Their desire was just to be satisfied with the water. They were thirsty. That was their desire. I need to get some water. But their desire revealed the wound. So God in this space was not ignoring their thirst, but what he was doing is he is using it to show them where they were by bleeding emotionally. Because the first thing that they did was start to complain. Let's think about us. What thing are you desiring currently? What thing emotionally do you desire emotionally currently in your life? And how is God, I need us to look at this, how is God revealing the emotional plans or pains in our life? I can tell you it is for me. There are friendships that I have. There are certain dynamics of relationships that I have, right? And in these dynamics of relationships that I have, there are certain things that then transpire. And these things bring something up in me. Now I become paranoid. Now I become stressed out. Now I can't trust you. Now I got this. Now I'm getting angry. Now I'm feeling this way. Now I'm doing, and all of these pieces, what do they reveal? There is something in me emotionally. There is a wound within me emotionally that needs to be healed. And he's using what I desire, which is relationships. He's using what I desire, which is my purpose, which is living in my destiny, living in my legacy for mine. Like all of those things, he's utilizing those things to say, okay, that's what you want. I'm going to show you in these things where your wounds are. It's not that I don't want you to reach your relationships. It's not that I don't want you to walk in your destiny. It's not that I don't want you to be able to have a legacy. It's not that I don't want you to have this and I don't want you to have that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I need to reveal that you are wounded, and I need you to be healed before you walk in the relationship. I need you to be healed before you walk into the destiny. I need you to be healed before you leave the legacy. Because if you're not healed, you will bleed. Okay, all right, let me pause. Whew, I'm getting hot all on my own self. So here's what then God reveals. Let's look at verse 26 again, because this is the instructions in verse 26. Exodus chapter 15, verses 26. This is what he says. And he said, if we will diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and give ear to his commandments and keep all of his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. Now, here's why I use this, because number two in this training moment is healing requires obedience. Here's what he said to the children of Israel. I'm going to, if I put my word, I'm laying out to you. I'm going to give unto you some commandments, some instructions, some boundaries, some things that you need to be able to function by. I'm going to speak unto you. But here's the thing. For you to get your healing, you have to follow instructions. Have you ever been sick? Just naturally, had a cold, whatever that is. And you end up having to go to the doctor. The doctor then has to give you what is considered as a prescription. And on the prescription, it gives you the detailed information. It tells you about your sickness, and it tells you about the medication that you're taking. And then it also tells you and lets you know how many times you need to take the medication. And it lets you know also how long you need to take this medication. Now, here's the thing that I love about it. One, for me to get better, I got to take the medication. Here's the other part. We all know this. Even in the process of me taking the medication, my body is going to start feeling better. But the doctor says this is when you start and this is when you need to end. Here's the time frame. Don't stop in between just because you think you better. Because you might feel better, but you're not all the way healed yet. So there's going to be instructions that God says, I'm going to give unto you like a prescription. And I need you to understand that I recognize what is broken, what needs to be healed, and I'm telling you what is going to fix it. And I'm going to also give unto you how long you need to be walking in this form or this context, but the time that I'm going to give unto you for the purpose of what? I need you to get healed. So this is not all for the rest of your life. You might not do it this way, but I need you to do it for this season. I need you to follow my instructions so that I can be able to heal the wounds. All right, here's number 3, and then we're going to wrap this up. Here's number 3. Number 3 is this. Healing often comes in unexpected ways. Here, I'm reminding of this. This is what he reveals. This is the training moments that he's talking to us about. Number 3 is healing often comes in unexpected ways. The tree, it wasn't special. It was just available. And sometimes God will send healing through people, places, or conversations you never expected. The question that we have to ask or answer for our own selves is, are you open to how God wants to heal you, even if it doesn't look like how you thought? Because here's the context, and I'm telling you, I'm done. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just wrap this up. Here's the context that I want us to be able to think about. Sometimes we want to be healed, but we also want to be in control of how that works. We want to control who God chooses. We want to control how God gonna do it. We want to be in control of our healing. Here's the question that I'm asking, that we both have to answer this. How does you being in control help you to be vulnerable and open enough for God to heal you? I've never known a person to go to the doctor to get surgery, get cut open, and they said, doctor, I'm gonna hold your hand while we work in this. Like, let me hold the hand that you using to cut on me. Why? Because I cannot control how this works. I know I need healing, but how you choose to do it, I have no control in the matter. So I have to then trust the physician to be able to do what he is called and created to do. Because what did he end off in 26? For I am the Lord that healeth thee. This is what I do. I'm not just talking about it. This is what I do. but you have to allow me to be able to do what I have created to do, what I'm created to do. So the way that we do this is we have to walk in humbleness. We have to be open. We have to be available for God to be able to do exactly what he said he's going to do. And here again, I'm going to just lay these three out one more time. Again, the first thing that he reveals in this training is desire reveals wounds. Desire reveals wounds. Number 2, healing requires obedience. And number 3, healing often comes in unexpected ways. I love you all, family. And as always, we are in this together and we are walking in our greatness. Love you all. Talk to y'all next time. Bye-bye.